You wake up with good intentions. Today will be different. Today you'll focus, work harder, become the disciplined person you know you should be. But then something small happens. A notification, an image, a passing thought, and suddenly the clarity you felt just minutes ago dissolves into a fog of desire. One click becomes another. Minutes become hours. And afterward, there's that familiar silence. Not relief, not satisfaction, just the quiet awareness that something inside you has been weakened again. This is the hidden battle most people never talk about. A battle not against the world, but against the impulses inside your own mind. Lust is one of the oldest forces in human history. It has destroyed kings, warriors, and brilliant minds who otherwise had everything under control. Yet there was a class of men who understood this force deeply. Men who lived in an age where losing control even once could cost them their honor, their reputation, or their life. The samurai. Contrary to the romantic myths we often hear, the samurai were not simply warriors swinging swords on a battlefield. Their greatest enemy was rarely another soldier. Their greatest enemy was the lack of mastery over themselves. Because a man who cannot control his impulses cannot control his destiny. And the samurai understood something that modern society has almost completely forgotten. Lust is not just about desire. It is about attention, discipline, and the direction of your life force. When your mind is constantly pulled toward temporary pleasure, something deeper begins to erode. Your focus weakens. Your ambitions fade. Your sense of purpose slowly dissolves until you begin to accept a smaller version of yourself. The tragedy is that most people try to fight lust using willpower alone. They promise themselves they will stop. They delete apps, make strict rules, and try to suppress the urge through sheer force. And for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, it works. But eventually the pressure builds, the mind gets tired, and the old habits return stronger than before. This is where the samurai approach becomes radically different. Instead of fighting desire directly, they train their minds in a system of discipline that quietly transformed their relationship with temptation itself. A system that made them calm in the presence of impulses that would easily control ordinary people. But before we explore that system, I want to ask you something honestly. If someone followed you for a week and watched how you spend your time, where your attention goes, what your habits look like when no one is watching, would they say you were a man in control of his mind, or a man constantly reacting to impulses? This question is uncomfortable, but reveals everything. Because the first step the samurai always took toward mastery was not denial. It was brutal awareness. And once you see clearly how these forces operate inside your life, something powerful begins to change. But understanding that shift requires looking at a moment in history where one samurai realized the true cost of losing control over desire. And the lesson he discovered became a principle that warriors would follow for centuries. Years ago, in a quiet province of feudal Japan, there lived a young samurai named Hayato. He was talented, strong, and ambitious, the kind of warrior that other soldiers expected to rise quickly through the ranks. His swordsmanship was sharp, his reflexes fast, and his teachers believed he had the potential to become one of the most respected fighters in the region. But there was a problem that no one spoke about openly. Hayato lacked discipline over the one enemy that cannot be defeated with a blade, his own impulses. At night, while other warriors trained their bodies or studied strategy, Hayato chased distractions. Gambling, drinking, women, and pleasure slowly consumed the hours that should have been devoted to mastery. At first it seemed harmless. After all, he still performed well during training. But discipline is not destroyed in a single moment. It erodes quietly, one compromise at a time. Months passed, and something subtle began to change. Hayato still had talent, but his focus was slipping. His training sessions became shorter. His mind wandered during instruction. The hunger that once pushed him to improve every day began to fade. And eventually, the moment arrived that would reveal the true cost of his habits. During an important sparring demonstration in front of a senior master, Hayato faced another young warrior of similar rank. The duel began normally, but within seconds something was clear. Hayato was slower than usual. His reactions were dull. His concentration fractured. The opponent's blade stopped just inches from Hayato's throat. Silence filled the training yard. The master observing the duel did not shout. He did not insult Hayato or criticize his technique. Instead, he asked one simple question: "Where has your mind been living?" Hayato did not answer, because he already knew. The master walked slowly across the training yard and spoke words that would stay with Hayato for the rest of his life. A man who cannot control where his attention goes will eventually lose everything that requires attention to build. Then he explained something that every samurai was taught, but few truly understood. Desire itself is not the enemy. The real enemy is allowing desire to decide the direction of your life. The master described it like a fire. Fire can warm a home, cook food, and forge steel. But if left uncontrolled, it burns the house down. Lust works the same way. It is a natural force inside every human being. But when it is constantly fed without discipline, it begins to consume the energy needed for higher pursuits. Hayato listened quietly. For the first time, he realized that the problem was not simply pleasure. The problem was that every time he gave in to impulse, he trained his brain to expect the easiest reward. And once the mind becomes addicted to easy rewards, the hard work required for greatness begins to feel unbearable. That day, the master gave Hayato a challenge that seemed almost absurd. For the next 30 days, he said, "You will not fight desire. You will train your attention." At first, Hayato didn't understand what that meant. But the lesson that followed would become the foundation of what the samurai called disciplined living. A method not for suppressing desire, but for slowly transforming the mind so that temporary urges no longer had the power to control it. And what happened during those 30 days revealed something most people in the modern world have completely forgotten about: the nature of self-control. For the first few days, Hayato believed the challenge would be simple. After all, he had faced dangerous opponents before. How difficult could it be to simply watch his own attention? But very quickly, he discovered the truth most people avoid. The mind is restless. It jumps from thought to thought, craving stimulation, searching for pleasure, running away from discomfort. The master did not ask him to eliminate desire. Instead, he instructed Hayato to observe at the moment it appeared. Each time an urge surfaced, the task was simple. Pause, breathe, notice it, do nothing. At first, the urges felt powerful, almost overwhelming. His mind would produce images, fantasies, excuses. It whispered that he deserved pleasure after a long day of training. It argued that resisting was pointless. This is the stage where most people lose. They believe the urge itself is the command. But the samurai understood something different. An urge is not an order. It is only a signal. The master explained it this way. Imagine you are sitting beside a river. Thoughts and impulses are like boats drifting down the water. Most people immediately jump onto the first boat that passes. They follow it wherever it goes. But discipline begins the moment you realize you don't have to climb aboard. So Hayato began practicing a strange form of training. When desire appeared, he did not fight it. He watched it. When the urge told him to seek distraction, he stayed with his breath for a few moments longer. Something surprising began to happen. The urge would rise, then fade. It didn't disappear instantly. Sometimes it returned again minutes later. But every time he observed it without reacting, its power weakened slightly. By the second week, Hayato noticed a quiet shift inside himself. His mind felt clearer during training. His reactions sharpened again. Energy that had once been scattered across countless distractions began returning to him. This is the first principle of the samurai discipline system. Attention is power. Whatever you repeatedly give your attention to becomes stronger inside your mind. Feed distractions and they grow. Feed discipline and it grows. But the master knew awareness alone was not enough. If a man simply removes temptation without building purpose, the mind will eventually search for pleasure again. That is why the second phase of the training focused on replacing impulses with something stronger. The samurai believed every man must have a direction powerful enough to organize his life. For them, That direction was mastery. Mastery of the sword, mastery of the mind, mastery of character. When a person becomes obsessed with improvement, temporary pleasure begins to lose its grip. Hayato's schedule changed completely. His mornings began before sunrise with silent meditation. His afternoons were filled with relentless training. Even his evenings were spent studying strategy and philosophy. Not because the master forced him, but because he began to feel something new. Momentum. And momentum is the hidden weapon of discipline. Once you begin moving towards something meaningful, your mind naturally resists anything that might break that progress. The same energy that once fueled his impulses was now fueling his growth. But there was still one final lesson the master needed Hayato to understand. Because discipline is not only about resisting temptation. It is about becoming the kind of person who no longer feels controlled by it. And that final lesson would change the way Hayato saw himself forever. As Hayato's training deepened, the master introduced a final principle. He asked Hayato to imagine two versions of himself. One version lived for immediate pleasure, reacting to every impulse, chasing comfort, avoiding discomfort. The other version lived with intention, choosing long-term strength over short-term satisfaction. The master explained that every decision you make strengthens one of these identities. There is no neutral ground. Each time you give in to lust without awareness, you reinforce the identity of impulse. Each time you pause and choose discipline, you reinforce the identity of control. This is why the samurai system works at a psychological level. It does not rely on shame. It does not rely on guilt. It relies on identity transformation. The goal is not to fight desire forever. The goal is to become someone for whom uncontrolled desire feels unnatural. The master then taught Hayato something even more powerful. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be redirected. Lust is energy. When suppressed aggressively, it often returns stronger. But when redirected into physical training, creative focus, deep work, and service to a higher purpose, it becomes fuel. The samurai did not view this energy as evil. They viewed it as raw power requiring direction. Hayato began noticing that when he trained intensely, the urges became weaker. After long sessions of sword practice, meditation, and physical conditioning, his mind felt balanced. Discipline created stability. Stability reduced impulsive craving. The more structured his day became, the less space there was for temptation to grow. The master also emphasized environment control. A warrior does not test his strength by standing in the middle of constant temptation. He designs his surroundings carefully. He chooses what he sees, what he listens to, who he spends time with. Modern society often ignores this principle. It places endless triggers in front of the mind and then blames individuals for lacking willpower. The samurai understood that environment shapes behavior more than motivation ever will. Over time, Hayato's transformation became visible. His posture changed. His speech became calmer. His focus sharpened. Other warriors noticed his difference, but could not explain it. He was no longer driven by constant distraction. He moved with intention. And here is the most important realization he reached. Freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want at any moment. True freedom is the ability to choose your response regardless of impulse. When desire appears and you are not forced to obey it, you regain authority over your life. After 30 days, the master asked Hayato what he had learned. Hayato replied that he no longer felt controlled by his urges. The master nodded and said that this was only the beginning. Discipline is not built in a single month. It is maintained daily through awareness, structure, and purpose. Now, think about your own life. Every time you resist distraction, you strengthen your focus. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you increase your power. The samurai discipline system is not about hatred of desire. It is about mastery of attention, identity, and environment. If this message resonates with you, consider subscribing because the path of discipline is not a one-time decision. It is a lifelong practice. And in future videos, we will continue exploring the principles that build unshakable focus, resilience, and inner strength.